Welcome to the March 29th, 2023 Brookline School Committee Finance Subcommittee. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the March 1st, 2023 minutes. I'm going to make a motion to accept. Is there a second? Thanks, Nancy.
I'll second. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne. Any questions or discussion on the minutes? I look like I've frozen. I hope you can hear me still, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Andy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is FY24 budget updates. Oh, Donna, I forgot to check in with you beforehand, but I'm presuming there was no grants and gifts. You checked, right, Betsy? Okay.
That's right. No grants and gifts. Donna did one.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, next item on the agenda is FY24 budget updates. So we have two items on the agenda for this. The first one is building user fees. This is a fourth reading and possible vote, and then other FY24 budget updates. So I will go straight into it. See if I can find the slides, which everyone who's on the subcommittee got the, and on the advisory committee got those attachments. But
Okay.
I will share my screen. Okay, so, and the date is wrong on here on the count on the first page. I'll have to fix that too, Betsy.
Okay.
Yes.
I did notice that after I sent it. So sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. So here's an agenda for today. I just want to remind people where we've been at in the process, because this is actually our fourth meeting. So lots of conversations, both in this public meeting forum as well as offline with the various stakeholders. And then we'll go through extended day user fees, base user fees, and some other user fees. So just reminding you why we were doing this, we have a significantly increased cost of building operations and maintenance, and the rates haven't officially changed in several years. So on February 8th, that was our first discussion. Matt and I had been meeting before then and talking about changing the structure of charges from per square foot charges for extended days to sort of a flat charge for everybody to increase clarity, and that would be an hourly charge. After that, extended day directors prefer, let me know that they would actually prefer a per student charge. So at our next meeting, I met with them offline. At our next meeting on March 1st, I reported to the committee talking about the extended day. We focused on extended day, the responses, their preferences. On March 15th, there was a third reading. We talked about a revision of how extended day wanted to count students. Originally, they wanted to go away from the EEC certified capacity to a actual student count instead. And then we had also done a quick review of some of the other big questions facing some of these other user fees. So today we're going to go through the extended day user fees. We've had lots of back and forth with them, and I'm going to present a proposal that they have presented to me, which I think, I hope will work for everybody. I think it clearly works for them, and it works for it should work for PSB. And then we'll go through the other sections as we get there. So this is the proposal for the extended day building user fees. So although they had gone to student headcount, and then in the middle, actually, they said that they would prefer a student FTE model, but ultimately they went back to the EEC capacity model that was our first proposal. So they request $110 per EEC capacity student. You can see the calculation of what that would look like based on their current numbers of EEC certification here. So you can see that whereas currently they're paying $104,701 for FY23 based on square footage, if we were to carry forward if their EEC certification stays the same, then they would be going to $130,460. I want to highlight that a couple of the programs are increasing in size and a couple of them are decreasing in size. So the budget will actually be tied to their FY24 EEC certification numbers, as opposed to what it is this year. For example, Driscoll is increasing because they will be adding pre-K, I believe is the rationale. Yes, pre-K for their program growing, and Pierce is shrinking, I believe, by some students, and so on and so forth. There are some program adjustments. So the proposal that they have made is $110 per EEC capacity student. And then we would carry forward the reducing the fees by the fraction of students who are on partial full scholarship. This third bullet here is a carryover from our last conversation that, which is, and you all have seen this, which is requesting that there be a policy that that policy take up in collaboration with Office of Student Services, Office of Teaching and Learning, and BEEP on either policy or a guideline on how after-school support is provided for children with significant needs, because some programs are receiving support and some programs aren't, and it's not necessarily clear why. And then the third bullet here is the extended day directors asked that the lease itself be revised if possible before their next lease would be issued for next year. And I've said to them that I think that that makes a lot of sense, but that it would depend on staff capacity to manage that, to participate in that. So for the subcommittee, first off, are there any questions? And then if there's no questions or comments, then we could take a vote on this $110 per EEC capacity seat.
Yeah, Mariah, this is Suzanne.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that did you have a conversation with the Baker board for their extended
I wrote
day?
back to
They sent it-
Adrian. I wrote back directly
Okay.
to Adrian right after she sent that email, and she never responded. It's
Okay.
that is not the only, she's one of 3 extended day boards who have reached out to me. And I think what happened was with the initial conversation around square footage, I don't know this because she didn't confirm, but I know it's true with the other 2, that with the initial conversation on square footage, the extended day directors had all reached out to their boards expressing concern. And then as the conversation evolved, no one ever closed or it appears that the boards did not get an update. And
Okay.
so when I have spoken to boards, it seems like there is, and provided them with the facts on the ground, it seems like everyone feels comfortable. At
Okay,
least of the
thank you.
3
Thank you for
boards, yeah,
doing
who
that,
reached
yeah.
out to me. Yep,
Okay, thank you very much.
sure.
Mariah, could you just say a little bit about the process here when you talk about the directors proposed? Like, were you like sitting at a table with all of them, or how is this
A
working?
Zoom table. Yeah. So,
Okay.
well, the most recent proposal we met once originally on, I think it was February 28th. It was before our March 1st meeting. And then we met again last week as a group. And then we've been trading emails back and forth in between. And then with some conversations yesterday, I said, just please confirm this is what you're thinking, because there was one director who was suggesting some other things, but it was not exactly what I had understood the consensus was. They all met this morning. I said, let me know what your consensus is. They all met this morning, and this was their consensus that they would like to propose. So we did not meet today about this. They sent this by email.
And the main change from last time is that it was 125 then, and it's 110 now.
And it was based on head count,
Okay.
actual head count, as opposed to EEC capacity.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Nancy, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm just glad that you met with, you have consensus. I wish it would have been a complete consensus, but.
Oh, no, I
I'm
think
glad
it
that-
is complete consensus. The last director, and I think there are at least one director's in the attendees. So if anyone wants to speak to this, feel free to raise your hand, and Betsy can call on you. I can't see anyone with the slides up, so Betsy, you'll have to moderate if anyone raises their hand.
Yeah, I do see Kathy, who I just promoted, so maybe she'll
Okay.
want to speak. Kathy Nowacki. Kathy, can you hear us? Would you like to speak?
Okay, it sounds, is she,
She's
no?
muted. She just unmuted.
I just unmuted myself.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kathy.
Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yes.
I can confirm with what Mariah said. We directors met this morning, and we are in full agreement that this is the direction that we would like to present. Every director was not there, but we all talked amongst each other either via email, texting, and then got back to Mariah with, we feel that this is the model that is the most equitable across the board of all of the programs.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, terrific then. No questions.
Okay. So is there someone who's willing to offer a motion of the user fees at $110 per EEC capacity seat?
I'll
Nancy,
offer motion.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Suzanne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Andy,
Yes.
Nancy?
I vote yes.
Oh, great, and I vote yes. Sorry, I got lost in the the four names there for a moment. Thank you. And I just want to say it was a really positive experience to work with the extended day directors on this. And I think it was really helpful to talk about not just this, but some of the other things that can help make the partnership stronger going forward. So I'm really grateful of how collaborative they were. And I think this is a positive step to addressing both some of our needs and some of their needs. So thank you, Kathy, and thank you everyone for that.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. Brookline Adult and Community Continuing Ed, Community Ed. I've lost what the C is. I have a sick kid at home, just so you know, and I didn't sleep well last night because of it. So my clearly I'm not firing on
No,
all
I'm
cylinders.
sorry.
Right?
I'm
No,
sorry.
she'll be okay, but yeah, it was. Okay, so base user fees. So this is a dense slide, and I'm gonna walk through this a little bit for everybody. And let me put the bottom line up front first for you. And is Michelle here?
Yes, she is. Yep.
Okay. Do you mind promoting her?
She
Actually,
is. Michelle,
Betsy.
you want to? She just unmuted herself.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure Michelle can talk if and when she's ready to. But basically, what I let me give a little bit of the background. So, using the hourly fees that you all had seen in prior meetings, Matt Gillis looked at the prior year usage, but applied with the fees, and he estimated that the base user fees for FY24 would be in the range of $110,000 to $140,000. Of that, about 40,000, I'm sorry, not 40,000, 40% would be room use fees and 60% would be after hours custodial fees. That dollar amount represents about half of the last time that base was charged, which was in FY20, and that was 240,000. Since then, just to refresh everyone's memories, we've waived the charges. I'd also reflect that the last time that base was charged, this isn't necessarily on the notes, it isn't on the screen here, but I would just remind people that at that point there was that was before the audit that revealed that base in fact did not have that large operating surplus every year, that there was actually some incorrect accounting that had been happening, and so base did not have as large of a fund balance as had been previously reported, and we now know. So I just want to reflect that those charges were also perhaps a product of the time, as opposed to, and that we don't necessarily have to look at that as what is appropriate in this situation. So some of the questions that I'd brought up for consideration from, and I'm just repeating them here, and this is sort of something for us to think about in general, about how building user fees, and I sort of articulate some of these custodial, security, equipment wear and tear. For example, at some of our programs, they use very specialized equipment, whether it's kilns for ceramics programs or other things. So how should we think about the building user fees for programs like base and athletics, which are both part of PSB, obviously, but occur after hours? If we don't charge these fees, where does the funding for after hours custodial and security come from? And then do we differentiate between user fees for residents versus non-residents like many of their programs do? Do we differentiate online versus in-person programs? One thing that I thought about since then to add here was thinking about, do we differentiate between other base students versus the students who are PSB students who are in music classes that are part of the performing arts K through 12 program? And then last, do we defer a decision of building user fees for another year for base? In other words, do we say that we're going to waive fees again? Do we defer it to the spring? That's also an option for the committee to consider. I'm going to throw out a proposal for consideration here, and that is to think about a facility fee, which is in the proposal. Oh, there's, do you mind muting, Betsy, whoever's having audio stuff? Thanks. To think about a per learner per course facility fee that would be charged at the same time as the registration fee. And I'm thinking the benefit of this is that the opportunity is for that fee to be scalable with base growth by their in-person enrollees and not necessarily by their classes, because I think part of the challenge too is that while Michelle is trying to offer, Michelle and her team are trying to offer a full suite and portfolio of programs, or as much as they can, the enrollment per class may not be as high as it has been, as they're still continuing to build back.
Sorry, I think that was Suzanne on the phone.
Yeah, okay. The other thing is that the facility fee could be a straight pass through, basically based on the amount collected. So it wouldn't be reducing the base course income. It would be a new revenue stream. And that also we would not charge base the per student fee, or it would not be, I should say, it wouldn't be charged on the performing arts activities, specifically the music lessons I mentioned above. And so I have a proposal, which is to start with a $5 resident and a $10 non-resident facility fee for next year. And that would be per learner per course. And that's actually very close to the swimming pool admission fee. I sort of thought of that as a baseline for us to consider. It's actually $8 for a resident and $10 for a non-resident to swim at the pool. And I think this is a place where, looking at Michelle's numbers from last year, at least when she reported to us about a year ago, she was looking at about 2,000 overall participants, some of whom would be students, PSB students doing music lessons, some of whom were online participants. So I think this is a way for us to start to build back a practice of looking at how we recoup the cost of use of the facilities, but not doing it in such a way that it's onerous to base to be able to address these fees, and in fact it introduces a small revenue stream to offset it. So that's the proposal to consider. And Michelle, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you for allowing me to comment. I do have some feelings about it. You know, I feel like this is a more fair approach compared to others that have happened in the past. But our program, as you know, COVID nearly decimated our program, and we are still in a rebuilding mode. The biggest impact was on the reduction in staff. So we went from a staff of 9 down to 2 programming, myself, a daytime secretary, and an evening secretary for the registration. And we're growing in our enrollment. We're bringing in more revenue, but it's weighing down on us pretty substantially. Got a little worried about staff burnout, things like that. But one of the other things that I just was wondering if the committee would consider would be the possibility of allowing, before doing something like this, and I understand the need for it, I know that costs are going up for everybody, is to give our program a chance to build up a cash reserve so that we don't ever have to come back to school committee and say, we're running out of money, or we don't have to lay people off. The number of people working obviously impacts the number of programs we can run. I'm very proud of the work that the staff has done. on that bare bones and bringing in, I think we added an additional almost close to 600 people more in this fiscal year, and we're not even done with it. We're just at the start of our spring term. So those numbers will come up. We will have exceeded last year's numbers, which is a great thing. You know, I don't know. Like I said, I know that it's a tough decision for the town, for the district. You've got some really hard decisions you need to make, and you need to find, you know, funds to help close out some of the deficits that seem to be looming. You know, in other meetings that I've attended, I've gotten that sense. So one of the other options that I'd like some time really to kind of hash it out a little more with potentially with Ruth. She's been very helpful, you know, in trying to work with base in the absence of a finance director in the district. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is that the funds, so we have the heaviest use on classrooms in the Unified Arts Building. So our woodworking, our pottery, jewelry, photography classes, all those like specialized equipment. And as it stands right now, the department heads over there are awesome. We have a great relationship working together. But I think there's probably a little bit of resentment in that we love having your students come, Michelle, but we're paying for them and we're not getting reimbursed by the district. So I know, you know, an assessment would definitely help reimburse those departments for the percentage of usage by our students. But I'd
And
like
you
a
mean
chance
specifically, Michelle, like relating to the equipment wear and tear I mentioned earlier, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
the equipment wear and tear. Yeah, exactly. You know, some of those machines are huge, and it costs a lot to maintain them. And right now it is costing the district and it's costing those departments. And the funds that we've been paying into the system don't seem to be making it down to them, and it's causing a little resentment. So I just want to ask that maybe something a little more time to look at the impact of potentially, you know, coming up with maybe another fee to look at to compare it to what you've proposed with a $5 per person per course if you're a resident, and then $10 per person per course if you're a non-resident, just to give us a little time to balance those two things out. And then again, to consider giving us time to rebuild a cash reserve. Mary Ellen and I, back when she was here, Mary Ellen Dunn, she recommended we carry a $300,000 reserve. That's going to take us a long time to get to that point.
Do you know what your reserve is now?
We don't really have a reserve.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't have, I believe at the end of the year, we are not going to be in a deficit, which is a good thing. We may only have, it's so hard to say because we still have expenses coming in for the spring, but we're projecting maybe around $30,000 left in our fund balance.
Okay.
So it's not a significant amount. And if we're shooting for $30,000, it's going to take us some time to get there. And I really need to be thinking about the staff and advocating for my program and my staff as much as you're looking at the big picture too. And I do understand where you're coming from.
Thanks, Michelle. Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So one is, so what is the typical course fee? I'm kind of wondering how big an increment this would be on top of that, and is it big enough to actually deter people from enrolling?
That is a big question. We don't know yet, and that would be another thing I'd like to look at. Well, so the fee as it stands right now is a $10 registration fee per person per semester. So, and that it would only be one charge, I believe, if it was for a family. So the family wouldn't get charged $50 if there were 4 or 5 kids registering for a program, that kind of thing. We try to keep things as fair as possible. What we do with that $10 is it offsets any financial aid or financial assistance that we give to families who are having difficulty affording taking any of the classes. So that financial assistance this fiscal year is coming out of our bottom line, coming out of our revenue line. Last year, I was able to get a $10,000 grant from the Brookline Community Foundation, which was helpful. And I have been applying for other grants to try to do more with certain segments in our community, in particular with people at the Housing Authority. You know, but the overhead for those grants, it's not going to be significant enough that I feel like it's going to give us a buffer and will offset the cost of these fees. I did a little example, you know, for the cost of a senior citizen to take a $15 lecture. Typically for classes that are $15 and less, we never did charge a fee because we felt like we needed to offer some really inexpensive classes for people who really, you know, couldn't have access otherwise. And then, you know, again, use that tuition as a way for us to build up some financial assistance for people. So if a senior citizen were to take a $15 lecture and they are a resident of Brookline, they'd pay a $5 resident facility fee, and then they'd have the $10 course fee if we were going to structure it that way. With their discount of 25% off, you know, instead of collecting $30, we would have collected $22.50. So their discount would only have been $7, a little over that. We don't know how that's going to play out with town employees, with school district employees. We offer them percentages off as well. So I need time to like kind of run through the numbers and break down the population that we have right now on who is a resident, who is a non-resident, what are the fees, you know, that how will this impact everything in bigger picture. If we were to put this new structure in place, I'm concerned about the vendor that we use is called Campus CE for our registration system and processing payments. I'm a little concerned about what they're going to charge us to do the coding, the computer coding on the back end to set up all this new things. I have no idea how much it would cost. It might be very minimal, or it could be a bigger thing. I'd need to talk to them first. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to them about this. We are concerned, you know, as I talked this over with the staff and said, what are your thoughts? You know, could this work out? Could we do this? And, you know, we are concerned that it's going to force people to say, better, we'll go to Newton instead. We'll spend our money down the road, or we'll go to Cambridge. Cambridge and Newton tend to be the two communities being right next to us that we compete with, but Arlington, Concord, Lexington, there's many other communities that have them, but I don't necessarily think people from Brookline are going to get in the car and drive to Arlington. I might be surprised by that, but I don't think that's the case.
You have other questions, Andy? I just want to make sure we get
I'm
through.
sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think you answered Andy's question. I want to make sure we get to his other
I'm
questions.
still wondering. So Michelle, you were talking about a course. Your example was of a course that seems pretty inexpensive to begin with, $15. Like, what would be the typical?
Yeah.
How much does a typical course cost? And then perhaps at the upper end where there are expensive materials or something. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what the original cost is going to be and how big an increment this is on top of that.
Tell you, our pottery classes are usually, we have a wait list for those, and those classes, there's a lot of equipment in there. There's the kilns, which runs off electricity. There's the wheels that, you know, the people sit on as they mold their clay. You know, there's a lot involved and a lot of wear and tear, and very expensive to you know, complete that that process. So let me see what our average fee for that is. It ranges all the different classes, so I don't know them all off the top of my head, but woodworking would be $310 for 8 sessions. I do think in woodworking, we have a little bit that we can move up in our tuition rate after doing a little study on comparable. And it looks like for a Saturday pottery class, it's 8 sessions for $250, or if you do it during the week on a Tuesday or a Thursday, again, $250. And this was from, I'm just browsing through our winter catalog. The prices might have gone up a little bit more for the spring. So to take a woodworking class at $310, add the $10 registration fee. And if it's a resident, another $5 or another $10 if you're a non-resident. So that helped give you a better idea.
Okay. So when you were talking earlier about maybe wanting some time to develop an alternative way of assessing this facility's charge, were you thinking of doing it in a way that's more tied to the actual wear and tear or the actual?
I was, and
the actual impact or the cost of the course.
I did meet with Britt and Donna, the two curriculum folks over there in charge of these areas, and I said, what is it costing you? What's the 5-year plan? How long is the equipment you have now going to last? How much does it cost you to maintain it? What do you predict you're going to have to order? What new saws need sharpened? I mean, things like that. And they gave me, some projections on what they thought. But I'd like to sit down and, somebody with more finance oriented like Ruth and just say, all right, so how do we do this fairly? Do we figure out what percentage children during the daytime are using that equipment and then what percentage the evenings are, and then look at the total cost and figure something out that way? This proposal that, Mariah just said, based on our numbers from fiscal year 22, it would be about a $10,000 assessment generally, that, we would have to try to build into our course offerings, make sure we're offering enough classes to even make sure we get to that point, if that's what the expectation is.
There's not an expectation. It's based on your actual pickup.
Okay. All right.
It's not saying it's 10,000. It's right, like it says there, it's straight pass through based on amount collected, scalable with base growth by in-person enrollees.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a little more easier to figure out. And then, it would be hard to say, but would you anticipate this getting voted on every year with increases based on inflation, other things, or is there a time?
I think that I'll say that, and then I want to flip over to Nancy because she's had her hand up. My vision is that we've gone away from charging fees for a while. This is a way for us to look at how we start to build back a system that can work. And that I also see there being differentiated fees based on programs that are heavy users of facilities going forward. And so I don't see I see your idea for how to improve this as completely aligned with my idea of how to improve this, but this is a start to begin to offset some of the tremendous additional building maintenance costs that the PSB is absorbing, and to look at how we can do so in a way that that is not a huge additional cost and doesn't eat into base's fragile current financial state.
Yeah,
So,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Nancy, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I'm a bit confused. So Mariah, I think you just answered a question in that PSB has been absorbing. Like, I was going to ask, who's been paying these fees for the
No one's
past?
paying the fees. We just haven't
I mean,
been
no, who's been
collecting.
paying for the costs?
Yeah,
We've
PSB
just been absorbing it.
PSB has been both transferring money to cover, well, I should say covering part of the base operating costs. I don't think any money's been transferred into the revolving fund, but I think some of the base operating costs have been transferred. I could be wrong on which way the money is flowing, but PSB has been both not charging building use fees and subsidizing some of the base operations.
During
So-
COVID.
During COVID, right?
During COVID. Yeah.
So for the past 2 years, I think it is possible 2 or 3. Yeah.
So Michelle, you said that one of your concerns is that people will go to neighboring towns. Are our course fees, commensurate with them? I mean, are we watching them?
Yeah. So when I first started, our registration fee was at $6, and I just thought that was too low to cover some of our overhead. So right now it's at $10. So I've only been here for 3 years, so it's gone up a little bit each year. We're at $10, and I called around to different adult ed programs and asked, what are you charging in fees? Some do charge a fee like $10, some charges like $12. Others embed their fees into their tuition so that the customer has no idea they're paying any fee towards anything else. And some don't charge fees, period, at all. They just charge the flat break it even costs to run the class.
Okay, I think that you're right, like pottery classes are expensive. So I'm wondering if you said that there's a waiting list.
There is.
So are some of these other classes that are sort of equipment heavy, are there waiting lists for them as well?
There are. The Unified Arts Building by far hosts our most popular classes. The woodworking, the painting classes, the jewelry. Jewelry has specialized equipment as well. Photography. One of the great things that's offered here in Brookline that you guys should be proud of is the fact that I think it's the only existing dark room in the Boston area. So people who are really enthusiasts around photography really want to come to our photography classes for access to that dark room. So we do have the demand, and in those things, we probably can raise our prices without people walking away because there is a waiting list. We're not really able to add more classes to bring in more of that revenue because of the concern of the wear and tear and on the cleanup and getting everything ready for the daytime students. Like we have a nice balance where we're at right now, and the teachers over there are happy. It's hard to share classrooms amongst teachers in daytime and evening programs. If you're a teacher, you probably understand that. So what we've been offering now has been working. I would need to work very closely with Donna and Britt if we were to add more classes and add more wear and tear on their equipment without them getting any reimbursement from us.
So here's what I'm proposing. I don't think that you should be concerned if there are significant wait lists about people going to other towns, because we can't even meet capacity for where we are. And if you were to raise fees on those, I mean, it will be whatever the market will bear. I don't think you have, don't get me wrong. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you how to run your program, but
that's okay.
I think that that's a safe risk for you to be able to raise fee, or however you want to do it, raise fees, raise resident, non-resident, or embed it within the tuition.
Yeah,
because the tuition sounds a little on the low side, if you ask me, compared to other adult ed classes.
Nancy and Michelle, can I ask us to make sure we stick to the user fees of this as opposed to the overall program? Because the overall program finances could be a meeting of 10 hours and
yeah. But shortly, I mean, the prices vary. It depends on the number of sessions, the number of hours, and what the teacher is charging us.
But if you have a waiting list, I think that you could easily absorb the cost of some of the maintenance fees and I don't think that you would run the risk of migration
for those classes, but maybe not a history class. We offer tons of history. We offer tons of ESL classes, painting, drawing, acting, singing. Those are the ones where we have to make sure that we do what we can to attract people, because we're often, those are the ones sometimes that get cut. The pottery classes never get cut.
Is there some way that we could heavy up whatever the resident fees are on those classes that are equipment heavy?
My feeling is I agree with the committee the subcommittee can vote however they want. My feeling is, and hang on one second, Arthur, that this is a place to start that allows us to look at user fees, to start to build in a system that doesn't overburden Michelle, that lets her do some of the research and the finance staff some of the research, and the curriculum coordinators at the high school some of the research into the actual program costs. And so this is a place for us to start, and then we can look at if it truly is that, I'm making this up, that base is 10% of the users and the equipment costs $50,000 to replace every 5 years, then we should probably look at what that contribution is. But so that department can get that transfer and offset when the time comes. But I personally don't want to rush into any of those kinds of decisions. until Michelle and the curriculum coordinators have had the time to do that, and the finance staff have had the time to do that work into
Agree.
those details, but beginning to offset some of the costs in a very small way. And like Michelle said, I mean, based on the numbers from last year, rough estimates, I'm thinking this is maybe $7,000 or $8,000 for next year, nowhere near previous year assessments and nowhere near even the 110 to 140,000 that would be the case if they were on the hourly basis. But this is a small contribution towards the overall costs. And Michelle has proposed, and the committee can consider too, deferring the base user fees, facility user fees another year until the program has built up its revolving fund balance to a more healthy, sustainable amount, possibly not the $300,000 idealized amount that Mary Ellen had said to Michelle before, but perhaps something more than the small positive balance that is currently being projected for the year end.
Okay.
Arthur, I'm going to call on you to do a quick comment, and then I want to see if we can get the committee to make a decision to either defer for the year, defer for the time being, or accept this proposal. Go ahead, Arthur.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say this to everybody that's on board here. We've been around, I've been around, either associated with the program or just in the town in general, and knowing about the adult and community ed for maybe 35 years. Okay, we've been just, I think, stellar members of this community. I want you to give us a chance to get on our feet, regardless. Okay, we're not here to do any kind of dirty business, okay, or be uncomfortable to the school committee or to this community. Just give us a chance. We have had a streak of bad luck somehow, with $1 million missing somewhere, somehow. When we get on our feet, okay, and get business going, we will be model citizens again.
Thanks, Arthur.
And I want you to understand that we've been model citizens for a long time.
Stop yelling. Stop yelling.
Thank you, Arthur.
You're welcome.
Suzanne, you haven't commented. I don't know if you want to before we possibly consider a motion. And I can't see you. And I don't know if you're still there even.
I think she might have lost her connection, Mariah.
Okay. So I'm going to put a motion out there for the subcommittee to consider, which is, actually, I want to respond to two things. One is that one thing you said, Michelle, is that the registration fee is used to offset for financial aid.
Mhm.
And the registration fee, I think, should be used to cover your registration costs and not offset financial aid. I think that if we're charging specific fees as opposed to overall program costs, we should be labeling them for the use for which they're intended. But that's sort of a long-term thing. And Arthur, I just want to respond to one thing you said, which is the $1 million didn't go missing. I just want to put out there for the record so that no one thinks that $1 million went missing, that there was an audit that found that the accounting had an error in it and that the $1 million was never actually properly, was not driven off of revenues. And so that was the audit.
But all I'm trying to say, Mariah, is that, okay, we're down.
No, I hear you. I just want to make sure for any casual listeners that they don't think that $1 million went missing out of the account, just so for the record. But I understand your overall point. Absolutely.
Okay, please,
Yep.
just, okay, bear with us. That's all I'm asking.
So the proposal I'm going to make is that we waive the fees for FY24 for base, but that that a per learner fee or something similar, a building usage fee, comes into effect in the following year, that staff would be directed to do the planning for this facility fee going forward. So waiving for one more year, allowing the program to continue to build its balance, but that we would look at this facility fee and have it implemented for the FY25. And I just want to say that what I said, we are under tremendous financial stress. I think every program needs to be, especially programs that are actually bringing in revenue like this need to be able to do their part. But I do understand, Michelle, that you're at the point at the razor's edge where there may not even be this level of revenue to even contribute. And there's no point in putting this out there only to have your program have no revenue anyway, and you feeling that stress of this. So this is about being realistic as opposed to not thinking that the fees are an appropriate thing, because I fully believe that they are. And I just don't want to, when the financial situation is so close to zero as it is, I don't think that there's much point in putting this on right now. So my proposal is waiving the fees for FY24. Wait a little bit, please, but directing staff to have a facility fee proposed for FY25, whether it meets this particular structure or some other structure. Andy, Suzanne, or I guess Suzanne's gone. Andy, Nancy,
I would second.
Arthur.
it.
Okay, you'll second it. Any comments or questions you want to make to that? Either one of you? And Arthur, do you mind taking your hand down? Because I can't see everyone. Thanks. No,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Got it. No,
Nope, now it's back. Okay, so you'll second that.
wait a minute.
Nancy, are you ready to, how do you vote?
I'm not sure how I'm ready to vote on this.
Okay, comments, questions on it?
Michelle, I hear you. And I would love, don't get me wrong, I fully support base. I think it's terrific. I think that it's necessary. It's 100% necessary. And I think it's terrific. I think it's time you look at I think we need to look at the program. I think that I get it, that COVID knocked you way off balance, and I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think it's time to I think it's time to look at the program, look at the fees, and look at how things like equipment and those classes that are particularly popular. I think that we'll look at those and we'll help you. Do you know what I mean? We're happy to help you. And you don't think that you'll be able to do this by spring? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is your timeline like?
For
Is
what?
that directed to me or Mariah?
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking.
Oh, okay.
What are you asking? Timeline for what though?
To take a look at, to analyze the program. I feel like you probably have a lot of this data already.
I don't want us to, I want to, are you saying for this spring or you mean for FY24 for her to pull the trigger on doing it sooner?
Oh, isn't that what we're discussing?
No, I was proposing waiving the fees for next year, giving them one more year to build the fund balance, but directing them for FY25, i.e. starting in July 1st, 2024. So they have 15 months to design
Okay.
a program that incorporates facility fees. Is that clear, Nancy?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's clear.
So how do you vote?
And Michelle, do you think that it'll take you?
I need to work very closely with 2 department chairs and then the person that's helping with finance and work within their schedules. I think, yeah, we could probably try to come up with a plan. I wouldn't be ready to share that in the next couple of weeks because my problem, very truthfully, is we don't have enough staff.
I hear you.
And, we're doing the best we can with the staff we have. We could offer more classes if I had more staff, but we're kind of at capacity, and, we're have to think, about what price the public will bear. I think on the classes that you mentioned, I think they would allow us to raise prices and still participate. Some of the other classes, I don't know. And I also don't know how it's going to impact the amount of financial assistance that we would have to try to come up with and, find a funding source for that, whether it be other grants or other programs.
Mariah, do we have budget to absorb this for another year?
It's $7,000, so
Oh, I
it's
thought
not
it was
a,
140.
no, that we're talking, we have a rough estimate of it's about $7,000. The hourly fees was, right, we've been waiving it and we haven't been relying on the, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think for the recent years, we haven't been relying on the building user fees account because there's been no income into it.
Well, we have been billing the extended days and
Oh, okay.
the one-offs that come in.
Yep.
but we have not been billing base.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that the waiving of next year, that we're not billing them for this year either? That's a question for the
Have we
committee,
not
just
voted? I
me.
thought we already voted for FY23 on base. Or we
Uh,
didn't yet.
I wasn't clear on that. I
Okay.
mean, there was a budget amount in there. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I just want to know if the fees waived for 24, is it also waived for 23?
Let's put a pin in that one to bring it back to the full school committee when we vote on FY24 user fees so that we can properly notice it and make a vote on it.
Okay, I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
I'm ready. to
Okay,
vote.
Nancy, how do you vote on the motion that was?
I vote
moved?
yes.
Okay, Andy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, and Suzanne's not back yet, right?
That's right.
Okay, Arthur, go ahead.
I'm sorry, my voice was raised, but I think that's because of my computer as opposed to my voice actually being raised because my wife came in the room and said, lower your voice. So it's not really, I just want to make that
You are
point.
fine, don't worry. Yep.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks. Thank you, Michelle. If she's still here, I can't see her anymore.
Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
here.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, for coming and for talking through this with us. And then this will go to full school committee in an upcoming meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's go on to the
It's
next.
like, speaking of which, Mariah, I
Yeah.
meant to ask the vote we took earlier on the extended day building fees. Was that a vote to enact or a vote to
No,
to
recommend.
school?
You're right. I should have made clear it's a vote to
Yeah.
recommend.
Good.
Are you finished with us?
Yeah, you're all set. Thank you for coming. I'll be done soon, I promise. Sorry. Okay, the other user fees. I'm going to go through this quickly. So the notes that you'll see here refer to a future slide that we're going to vote on, 2 future slides. So for the enrichment programs, the DASIP program director has agreed that using an hourly rate is appropriate. DASIP was the only enrichment program that was charged, as I mentioned last time, but several others actually exist and will be charged going forward. Brookline Music School has seen the rates that were going to be proposed next and supports them. Betsy, and I apologize, I can't remember her last name, was here at the last meet. Say it again.
Frontal.
Browenthal, thank you.
Yeah.
Was here at the last meeting and confirmed by email. And then as we talked about last time, there's a 0% charge to town departments and PTOs that has been a legacy practice, and we would continue that because the PTOs are providing supports to the schools, and town departments, there's a reciprocity agreement in place. So these rates are the same rates you have seen before. The only thing that has changed is that just clarifying which programs receive this 20% partner rate. It doesn't include the extended days. And so this is the rate that applies. So you can see there's a for-profit rate here for the hourly rates. The PSB partner rate is 20% of the for-profit rate. Schools for Children pays a 40% rate. Other nonprofits pay a 65% rate, and then town departments and PTOs pay 0%, as we discussed. And then I'm just going to show you the next slide too, which includes the proposed labor rates and audiovisual rates for building user fees. And if the subcommittee is willing, we can take a motion to recommend these to the full school committee. Of course, after any questions and comments from the subcommittee or others. Andy, Nancy, any comments, questions? Are we ready to entertain a motion?
Do you mind just going back for a second to the previous slide?
I do not mind.
Yeah.
And these haven't changed from even, I think, the first presentation. The only
Yeah.
question is who is included. we had originally had, I'm sorry, I missed base as well is not here because we talked about an alternate structure.
Right, so they're.
Yeah,
they're
base is not a
they're not-
PSB partner, they're PSB, so that's why they're not in there at all.
Right, and they're currently not being charged anything.
Well, we voted to recommend something to full school committee for FY24, and it turns out there was a gap in FY23 that we'll rectify.
Okay.
So yes.
And could you actually go back to the previous slide? I think you said, but it went by quickly. So the other enrichment programs besides DASEP, like you've spoken to them and they understand that they will be charged at the same rate as DASEP. And
Matt, can you give the update on where the other enrichment programs are at? Because I don't know the latest on who's been talking to them and what's been said.
Yeah, I really haven't been able to get to all of them. Like, wasn't aware that some of them were even in existence until recently, from the shutdown. So the fact that they hadn't been charged in the past and that my office, the lady in my office that did that, the position's been vacant. I'm still cleaning it up. So, I expect there'll be pushback. Well, we never had to pay before, but this is kind of the challenge here, for optional, I'm going to call it optional because not legally required, after school programs, that either we're going to collect some money to offset some of those costs, or it's sort of picked up in the overall total school general fund budget. And I'm fine with doing it either way. It's just, it's hard to say exactly what the revenue is going to be if we're not clear on who we're charging.
I just don't feel great about taking a vote when they haven't even been contacted and haven't had a chance to provide any feedback yet.
Yep.
So I think that it's a question of, sorting all this stuff out. But if we found out in a month that they had formed, in the meantime, they would still be falling under this rubric, and any future enrichment programs fall under this rubric. I personally think that it's an important distinction between an enrichment program and an after-school program, like an extended day, because the enrichment programs are often like once a week, they run for a couple of weeks, and then they're done. It's really not a routine option for working families to provide care. DASEP, was looking to fill a need to address a critical need, but will also be returning to a sort of session-based short-term with gaps in between enrichment program. And so this is not something where these programs are providing working caregivers with backup child care. This is really not a parallel to the extended days, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you on the merits of this, but however, I just don't think it's very courteous to make a change like this without informing them beforehand and giving them a chance to provide feedback.
Well, do we want to give the program, I don't know, it feels a little bit unfair to me to give the programs that knew they were nonprofits and that they should have been paying rent. They should have known that they were falling under this and didn't announce themselves a free pass. I don't know. That also doesn't make me feel very
Yeah,
good.
I agree.
So in some cases, they booked the space, but they
Right.
weren't sent a bill. And maybe they're just waiting for the bill. Or maybe they're thinking that they don't get charged because, they're the same name as the school and it's all the school kids, et cetera, et cetera.
But they are
Andy,
official nonprofits as opposed to just some sort of volunteer organization, Andy.
I believe most of them are. They provide insurance and their 501c3 tax status.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Matt, can you tell us for a couple of examples of the ones who haven't been charged yet?
Lawrence is one of them. I want to say
There's another one.
Yeah.
At least one more.
Pierce used to have a program, but they don't actively.
Pierce was always
believe-
within the
I'm not sure-
extended day. Pierce was,
Right.
the enrichment program was part of extended day.
Right, they fell under that umbrella.
Driscoll has an after-school program. Lawrence has an after-school program. Heath has an after-school program. Lawrence and Heath, I believe, are 501c3s, and Driscoll is in the process of incorporating.
So is the decision at hand that we either don't charge DASEP anymore in, you know, in order to make it equitable across all similar programs, or we reach out to the other similar programs and tell them, you know, that your time is up and we have to start charging you? And how long would that take?
Well, there's
enact
two
that?
reasons we're behind. One is the staffing, another one is the software. That's been around a long time. I don't think they're supporting anymore, and we can't extract all of the bookings, you know, for the year like we could in the past. It only goes back so far. So we basically have to do it manually and pop the rooms and the hours of use into Excel and then calculate it and add it all up.
Oh, so it's not a question of, you know, we know you haven't been paying, but you're going to be paid going forward. We're going to charge you for back time. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
No, my question was for you know, same with base, but for FY23.
Programs that weren't told they were going to be charged, I'm not sure that it's fair to after the fact, once they've
I
already
agree.
developed their program fees. This is for FY24 going forward. I
And
think
Mariah,
all of
what
these
are we-
programs have the opportunity to absorb the cost structure. They'll be able to plan for the fall and to be able to work it out. So I personally feel comfortable with going ahead with the charge.
To DASEP as well as everyone else.
Correct, to the enrichment programs as a whole. And I just want to go back, I mean, look at the fees that we're talking about. A typical classroom, we're talking about a $10 an hour charge. So this isn't a significantly large charge for a class that's happening.
And Andy, your objection is that we have to give them time to be told, notified, and then respond.
Yeah, I have no objection at all to charging them the way we do DASEP. I think we should. I just find it odd that they haven't been told. When would this come up in full school committee if we were to move it up now?
Probably not until like the 10th, possibly, maybe longer, because I think that we've got only one meeting in between now and the 10th, and that meeting's already filled.
Mm-hmm. So I guess if I were moving, I would move that we accept, you know, what you have here, but that before it comes up before the full school committee, so all the affected enrichment programs would be notified about it and, you know, be given a chance to respond if they have.
Yeah, I'm
issues.
happy to reach out to the Matt if you can't, if it's too much for the thing. And I just want to mention, I also cited the wrong classroom. The $10 is for the AC classrooms and the regular classrooms are $5. So it's even less of a charge per hour than I had first stated. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to accept these user fees for the upcoming FY24 year, to recommend acceptance by the school committee. And Matt or I will reach out to the enrichment programs to close the loop with them. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Nancy, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you very much. Okay.
And Suzanne's on. I don't know if you can hear us, Suzanne, if you'd like to vote.
Oh, go ahead, Suzanne.
She's on the train, I think. Oh, I see a thumbs up. I don't know if that can count.
Okay. I don't know if it can count either.
I say yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Okay.
I just want to give a little bit of, this is the last item. Oh, actually, that's not true. It's not the last item on the agenda. Oh, no, this is the next item on the agenda. So just some upcoming and recent past important dates that I wanted to flag for people. The two that are not bolded up at the top are in the past or now. So last week, the select board voted to put the operating override and the Pierce debt exclusion on the ballot. We're meeting today. April 10th is the scheduled presentation on the programmatic adjustments and scenarios that would illustrate the scope of cuts should the operating override fail. So that's scheduled for the 10th, which is in about 12 days or so, 11 days. The week after that is the presentation of the PSP budget to the advisory committee. The week after that is the presentation of the PSP budget to the select board. The town election and town vote on the debt exclusion and operating override are on May 2nd. And then May 4th, we'll have an update at school committee on the FY24 budget, obviously informed by the hopefully successful results of May 2nd. And then May 23rd, town meeting begins, and that would be when the official FY24 budget votes would be occurring. So I'm gonna stop sharing the slides. Any questions or comments on the scheduling updates? Okay, then our last item is other old and new business. I want to highlight that tomorrow night, school committee will interview a candidate for the Deputy Superintendent for Administration and Finance position, Dr. Susan Givens. So that's it. Is it 8:15? I'm sorry, I can't remember what time it is. 8:15. So for anyone who's listening and would like to watch that, or if you're not going to be at school committee already, if you want to watch that, you can see Dr. Givens' interview at 8:15 tomorrow night. Any other old or new business that anyone else wants to share? Linus, you are here, and I didn't call on you all meeting, but that was an unintentional oversight. If you have any updates you want to provide or comments on the proceedings.
No, but I think you've covered the spread.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment or anything? Any other old or new updates?
No, other than to say, I hope your daughter feels better.
Thank you. She was just sick enough to not go to school, but not sick enough to actually be sick. So
Yeah, that's the best kind.
well, or
yeah.
Okay, well, I want to, it looks like we'll get out of here 20 minutes early. So I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. I'm very grateful for the collaboration and participation on the user fees. And we will be back together tomorrow night for regular school committee. Thanks, everyone. Bye.